And let's tee up the Oregon football season with Dante Moore at quarterback, and of course, a date with Montana State coming up as a 27.5 point favorite. The over/under sitting at 56.5. Let me start out the conversation with this, Spencer.
Wait, 26 and a half?
27.5.
7.5? It was 29.5.
Okay, that's
Public likes Montana State. That's interesting.
That's what I just grabbed.
I'm not saying you're wrong. That's just
CBS Sports. That's where I got that. And again, 56.5. So let's start here because there's just so much different personnel on this team than there was last season. Do you have any different thoughts or expectations of this team, or do you evaluate this team any differently today than you did when they hit August camp on the first day of the month?
Not any different than August. I've been pretty consistent this offseason saying Oregon should be a playoff team. They recruit well enough and have retained that talent sufficiently to the point where, Oregon fans should expect them to make the playoff every year in the 12-team era. They have the resources. They have the coach who is one of the, sixth highest paid in all of college football. He's off the Big Ten championship year. Like that trajectory shouldn't do anything but continue to go up, or at least level off, and leveling off would be, better than 99% of programs in all of college football. So, I think that that's a fair expectation for this team specifically. I'm hesitant to say they're going to be as good as last year. I don't think they're as good as last year. I think their schedule works out favorably. Interestingly, we were talking about line changes. Their win total shifted on FanDuel, where the line is also down to 27.5. It was 29.5 previously, but I saw that Oregon's win total shifted down to 9.5 from 10.5. What that tells me is there are either a couple people with a lot of money or many people with a little money that think Oregon goes 10-2 this year, or 9-3 rather than 11-1 or 10-2. I don't actually think that's ridiculous. They're only bringing back a handful of starters. They're working in a new quarterback. The one thing they do have going for them that a lot of high-level programs don't, Mark, coaching staff continuity. They're going into their third straight year with the same offensive and defensive coordinators. The number of Power 4 programs that can say that, I don't have the number off the top of my head. I bet you it's less than 5 for 3 straight years. I mean, you can't say that about the two teams I think make the national title game, Penn State and Clemson. They've got new coordinators. Now, that's an upgrade for Penn State and maybe for Clemson as well. I think Tom Allen's good. I think Jim Knowles is better. But, they can't say they've had the same coordinators 3 years in a row. And that's where I do buy into, okay, this Oregon team should still, win 10 or more games this year. Because if you don't, well, what's the point of recruiting at a top 5-10 level year in and year out? What's the point of investing in your program the way that Oregon does, if not to go out and be a perennial playoff team? And you're not going to make it every year. Nobody does. But in the 12-16 team format, I think that that's a very reasonable expectation for this year. I think there's one caveat there. If you have a massive amount of injuries, then okay, that's tough. But I mean, they're replacing a lot. There's a lot of young, exciting talent on both sides of the ball, and I don't think they're as good as last year, because I don't think that's a reasonable expectation for Dante Moore. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation for the rest of the team, because last year's was so experienced. But I do think that they should still expect to make the playoff with the schedule that they have.